Welcome to the Distillers Institute Podcast. I'm your host, Marcel Thompson. I'll speak with experienced distillery owners who have launched and have grown their own distilling businesses. And we'll share some of their wins, their successes, their challenges, and find out just what it takes to make a great distilling business. Today, I'm joined by Chris Fraser, who is the man of the moment at Bluff Distilling Co. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with the geography of New Zealand comprises of three main islands. So the North Island, called Tika Maui, the South Island, which is Waipunamu, and a third island, which is Rakiura, or Stewart Island. Now, Bluff is this wonderful place, which is at the base of the South Island, north of the Fauve Strait. So the Fauve Strait actually connects the South Island with Stewart Island, and that is where the wonderful and talented Chris Fraser actually resides. Chris, welcome to the podcast. Great to see you here.
Thanks for having me, Marcel. And that was a great intro to Bluff as well.
Oh, it's absolutely wonderful. And it's borne out by in many ways, the background that you're sharing with us today really captures for me the spirit of Bluff as a region. It's rugged. I was trying to paint a picture of where it is geographically. And the Fauve Strait is probably not quite as well known for people north of the Bombay Hills in the North Island as the Cook Strait, which separates the North and South Islands. But it really does capture, I think, to me, that the sheer ruggedness and the challenge and the wonderful nature that Bluff actually really does describe. Could you tell a little about the audience today, about how the idea for the Bluff Distillery company actually came about, and what actually kicked this thing off?
Yeah, rather interesting story actually. Where we are based at Ocean Beach in Bluff, it's a place that's got a lot of history. It's the site itself's been around for over 130 years. My math's not that good this morning, but it could be longer than that if we put some dates in there. But anyways, yeah, Ocean Beach was an old freezing works. Meat works started in 1891, closed in 1991. So it just made 100 years. And I happened to be down there having a meeting with a guy. So yeah, we're all food producers. We all do other things other than distilling. And so I'm a beekeeper. I have a beekeeping business. And as part of a Southland Food Producers Network meeting, I ran into this guy who ran a pawa farm, or abalone for those people on the other side of the ditch and around the world. And yeah, we've got talking, and he said, look at that view there, that would make an outstanding brewery or a distillery. And I said, it is an outstanding view, but I think the building you're talking about and the place where we are probably doesn't suit it all that well. And that was my initial response to that. And they actually went away. And when I got home that night, I went, there's some unique opportunities here, not only because of the place of where we are and the history of the site, but the views, the ruggedness, and I guess that site and the state that it was in really is a tribute to the type of people that would have turned up there back in the day,
Absolutely.
early 1800s, with that dogged determination that we're going to make something of this place no matter what it throws at us. I guess at the end of that first initial meeting, I went away and thought, I reckon we can actually do this. And yeah, we worked on it in the background for a very long time, as you do. But because I'd been involved in other startups, I knew that if we were going to go down this journey, it was about putting together the right team, the right people, because startups are tough, and just making the distillery in a little fishing town with a population of 1,500 on a good day isn't going to pay the bills. It's a long way away from making it viable. We really had to think about how we were going to do this, and yeah, so we did. We worked in the background, and then March 24 we launched. Yeah. Took a while, took a lot longer than we thought, but sometimes the wait's worth it.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you, 100%. So you speak about 2024, and this is the analogy I often share with people, right? And I often use sport as an analogy. So, for example, the All Blacks had a test match last night against a side, and the bystander that goes to the game, all they see is what the players are doing on the field. It belies the hours in the gym, the dietary requirements, working through injuries, the tactical things they need to do, all the preparation steps that need to go towards, which ultimately is like an 80-minute performance. So in the run up to 2024, when did that, as it turned out to be quite a pivotal meeting, actually take place? So it can give the audience a bit of a sense of the lead up time. You said it took longer than you intended, but what sort of period of time were you talking about?
Yeah, so once we started to get a little bit serious about it, it wasn't just a talk. About 2021, we formed the company. We put together a group of shareholders to help drive the project forward. A real range of people with a range of skills. So starting out with 1 and 2 people, I've done that a few times. It's very draining financially, emotionally.
Absolutely right.
Everything like that. So if we were going to launch another business, it wasn't going to be in isolation. So and like I said before, we were thinking bigger than just selling to 1,500 people in a small fishing village. Yeah, so in the middle of 2021, we formed a company and we started doing a little bit more in-depth research, looking at what we needed in terms of compliance, which was a big thing. We wanted to go out there. We didn't want to just buy a still, which a lot of people do, and then find out that they can't run it afterwards. Basically see there, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go and put together this group. We're going to research the building requirements. We're going to research the still requirements. We're going to research compliance, health and safety. But at the same time, our kitchen looked like a science experiment. From then, from 2021 through to 2024, my wife was very pleased when we opened a distillery and she got her kitchen back. And we also worked on the story and the branding and the bottle and all those sorts of things, because it was a time, 2021, gin was great. Gin was still going through the roof, and we knew that at some point there was going to be a reset in the market, as there is with all products. So we were only going to get one chance to launch. And yeah, we thought, rightio, we're going to launch. I think we tried to launch in August of 2023 was a goal. It still didn't turn up till October 2023, so that was never going to happen. Shipping deadlines and everything. And then as it was, when we got to March, when we did launch, we were flying bottles in to meet the launch date that we had. Yeah, we were lucky enough for Tiffany O'Regan to have him booked in. He was getting off a cruise ship in Bluff on the day that we had, so we had to do, and he was blessing the distillery and also opening it, and we had to meet that deadline. So I think our bottles turned up without the corks. The labels turned up the night before. It was just a circus, but we got there.
For those who don't know, and certainly people can run a search and say, T.P. O'Regan, the gentleman that Chris is referring to, in many ways, and this is my viewpoint, in many ways has been a pioneer of a lot of Māori economy activities taking place in the South Island, particularly through Ngāi Tahu over the years. And to actually secure him to do all those things, Chris, that's a major coup. And that's
Totally.
Sensational. Yeah. Well, congratulations. Well done. That's awesome.
Thank you.
A blessing from the man himself. That's superb. So now the story that you described is not, we're pleased to know, is not an unusual one. I've been involved in startups myself where at some point demand was far greater than we actually expected and didn't quite get the materials requirements planning quite right, and bottles that sort of right by air at some stage. But interestingly enough, you get better at the whole planning thing once you get a bit of a feel for that. So I think you're in pretty good company as far as that kind of response to a deadline is actually concerned. So in terms of numbers, and feel free to share as you see fit. Obviously, there's a lot of momentum with the launch as such, but yeah, can give folks a bit of an idea of the size of the distillery, and use any metric you like in terms of bottles sold or production capacity, whatever the case may be, and the number of people you actually have on your team today.
Yeah, so in terms of bottles and capacity, as still Hannah, she's a 300-litre hybrid still. So yeah, we just run a single shot system, but it's not one still run per batch. So we combine still runs. Interesting enough, we're 30 meters from the ocean at that level, and with the dramatic weather that we have down there, boil times are all over the place with atmospheric pressure changes and everything. One way that we control that is by combining still runs until we get to the point where we're at the flavor profiles that we're looking for. Yeah, in terms of bottles and volume and everything, so for that opening, we flew in 350 bottles. We had no idea how long that was going to last us. We started selling them on Friday at the 8th of March, 2024 at 3:00. And when we got up on Monday morning, they were sold out. So that was a good start. But we knew that we could only ever run out once. We could never run out again. And yeah, logistically, it's been probably the hardest thing is keeping up with the bottle supply. So with our unique bottle that we've designed, if we run out, there's nothing else we can put in its place. Yeah. So basically after that, flying in that first initial shipment, we had a container load turn up, but it didn't turn up until the middle of May. And when it turned up, the sea looked like the photo in the background. And we could see the ship out in Favo Strait, but it wasn't allowed to come into the port because it was blowing over 30 knots, which is pretty much every day down there. But yeah, so yeah, there was a few more delays, and so in May we got it sorted, but we pretty much ordered the next container load straight after that. Yeah, and then yeah, since then we've ordered a few more 20-seater or 20-foot container loads, so around 10,000 bottles. And we're just starting to order in 40-foot container loads now. So just trying to get a little bit further ahead. So that sort of gives you a little bit of an idea of volume. Yeah. But in the interim, I did go and find one of these.
Oh, that's outstanding.
No, not that it wants to work with the background, but shit. There you go.
Oh, perfect. Look at that. That is outstanding. No, it's great. So we can splice that in there.
Yeah.
So before we just kick off where we dropped off, so Chris, thanks very much for showing that wonderful bottle, which is just absolutely remarkable. So the URL, what's the URL for Bluff Distillery Co? So people can sort of log in there, check it out.
So bluffdistillery.com. Nice and easy.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't get much better than that. How good's that?
No. Yeah. That's Bluff for the B as well, so.
And 2 Fs.
2 Fs, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
But so you're speaking about obviously the number of bottles and the like, and that bottle design that you've got is absolutely remarkable. Custom bottle of that type. So may I ask who helped you design the bottle and who actually ended up producing the bottle for you?
Yeah, so what we did as part of that initial setup was to basically do a fact-finding mission of that's tied in with the local stories and I guess develop a branding guideline, color palette, style of font, all that sort of stuff. We came up with a couple of ideas around bottles based on that sort of local scouting mission. So yeah, we had a design and branding team as part of our initial setup. And so yeah, we came up with 2 bottle options, and we took the bottle options. Well, I guess if you go back a step, coming up with the 2 bottle options was a bit hard because there was, there was actually 10 of us, or 8 or 10 of us at the time involved in the project. So everybody had a different opinion of what was good and what wasn't good. But so we came up with a couple of design options, and we went to somebody in the industry that we respected, and we said to them, we took 2 things to them. One was the juice and one was the bottle. And so we said, here's where we are. This is us. We're from Bluff, right down the bottom of the South Island. I'm not sure if you really know where that is in Auckland, so that kind of story. And pretty promptly we got shut down. And it was like, actually, I went to school in Invercargill. So it was quite funny. So yeah. And anyway, the discussions went on and the juice was drunk. And we decided at the end of it, if we were going to make a bottle, it couldn't be the bottle that was wrapped with the design that we've got. It had to be the design. that we'd come up with. So,
Nice one.
and when I say the design, it was basically, it was a picture of a glass Japanese fishing buoy, and it had a cork on top, and it had Bluff written on the front of it. So it was by no means a bottle at all. It was just a
Concept.
glorified sketch. But after a couple of gins and a few martinis, because we took two different gins to the meeting as well to get their opinion. And fortunately, it came out with the recipe that we've got in the bottle now was the one that we hoped would shine, and it did. And after a few of those, we said, yeah, sure, no problem. We'll make a bottle like that. So that's actually easier said than done, because you can make it, you can come up with an idea for anything. Doesn't mean that it can happen. But luckily, we managed to, we went to a lot of glass manufacturers, and they said, you can't make a bottle like that. And not with the level of detail you guys have got and all that sort of stuff. But for us to do it, we didn't really want to compromise, because, like I said before, you only get to do this once. And if we're going to have a unique brand proposition, then we need to come out all guns blazing. So eventually we found a French-owned company with a factory in China who said they'd give it a go.
Wow.
So we wrote a check and hoped. But yeah, as we know now, like there's some great stuff out there. We're working on different size bottles at the moment as well for different markets. And so the beauty is 3D printing technology is fantastic. So they send us files, we 3D print them in plastic, we see how they sit on the shelf, see how they fit in your hand. The first few that they sent us for a 700ml bottle was so small, was almost totally round. You couldn't hold it. It was a nightmare. So just toing and froing over time and getting it to look right on the shelf was probably the key thing, and using the technology that's available, and then committing to buying 10 or 20,000. So yeah, little bit of blind faith, but yeah, it's all good.
Oh, that's fabulous. And you're absolutely right with the way the technology is. It just means that whole forming of ideas and concepts is now more real. But you can render it. Now someone can come up with something at the other side of the world, take those files, and then you can get a very good physical idea of what the design actually looks like. So that's
totally.
That's tremendous.
The buying a glass mold's a bit eye-watering for your bottle. It's like you've got to, once you do that, you're all in. You can't change it, because you have to basically write the check out again. So to spend a few $1,000s on multiple 3D prints is money well spent in that space. So yeah.
And I guess the other thing too, that it's the speed of the turnaround, right? So the once the investment in traditional molds is made, to your point, that's kind of it. And if you want to change that, the cost of the variation to the design for the mold, then you sort of go through that protracted process of making it on maybe some sand kind of model or something like that, and hope it bears some resemblance to the thing you actually had in mind. It really does put it into context. So in many ways, I guess what I'm hearing is that this notion of 3D printing really has changed the route to first bottle approach. Now you can get to some kind of endpoint and review point a lot faster than you would otherwise. And I think that's probably borne out of the fact that essentially from a meeting in 2021 to a launch in 2024, that is fair galloping. That's
it is, because all these things take time, and the toing and froing between a different country with a different language, and it's we still had to push on to get from where we were to where we were when we launched, and there was a bit of naivety in there to think that we'd probably launch in August 2023, and it would have been a train wreck. But anyway, when we got it over the line, it was all good.
Absolutely fabulous. And I guess one of the other key messages I guess you're sharing, albeit tacitly, with the audience, is the importance of marketing and branding. And it's one of these things that, particularly with this people who enter the distilling business and the industry, more often than not come from a love of the product. So that bit at the end. And I've often sort of shared with people, that's actually the least difficult part of this whole thing. In a really oversimplified model, it's marketing, sales, product, right? So the marketing that you use is absolutely spectacular, and people that listen to the cast can check out the website. But were there things with the marketing that you found that obviously what you've got now works, right? It absolutely works. But were there things that you tried that probably didn't work, or was it a case of the things that didn't work didn't get air and didn't actually get out there? He just said, no, that's not going to work. We're just not going to do it. Can you tell us a bit what that really difficult route to successful marketing actually looked like for you?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think, the size of your team can cause some problems with that. When there's one or two of you, it's easier to get a decision over the line. The more people you add into the mix, the more robust the discussions. And, you don't always see eye to eye, but, that in effect helps build the character behind the business and the determination to push it through and make it more. It's interesting, the marketing thing, because I read something just the other day, and it sort of goes on your comment about most people enter the industry because of the love of the product. And this particular piece said it was something around the lines of, the world doesn't need another spirit or another version of a spirit that already exists. The market isn't waiting for your gin, to turn up on the shelf. But the thing is that it doesn't mean that there's not a space in the market, or that you can't make a space in the market. So
correct.
Yeah. So being local and small in a fishing village of 1,500 people isn't enough of a USP to take on the world, unfortunately. So you've got to go out there, and it's a bit, for lack of a bit of an analogy, I'm sure there was an element of this in most people's relationships with their other half, is that the first part you shop with your eyes, or you go, I really like that person. And then the next bit is, do I like the personality of that brand or that person? And then you go further into it. So it's,
Excellent.
yeah. So you can have I guess for, you can go, I really like that person. And then they open your mouth and you find that you don't like the tone of their brand or their, what they're offering. And so you might only go there once. So I think I guess from a marketing point of view, we had to be two things. We had to be different, and we had to try to be better. And they're both very, very hard things to do. So I think we've come a long way on trying to achieve both those things. We've still got a long way to go, but we're very fortunate with how well it's all come together and how well the team have planned and behind the place. And so
that's excellent. I suppose the other thing I would relate to, and that I'd add to that, to those two dimensions that you so generously shared, and I thank you for that, is one of the first things that struck me. I'm trying to remember when we first met, but I think it was at the Distilled Spirits Aotearoa conference a couple of years ago. And one of the things I guess that struck me about the story you shared with me at that time, and also with your product, is it was also relatable. It's the other part of that marketing dimension that you've got in there. Now, obviously, the people in Bluff can relate to the story, and it's showing spectacular detail in your background. But I think that other dimension is that suddenly it's something that, I can actually relate to this thing as well. There's a real common ground in there, and I think my impression would be that that was one of the first things that struck me, and I suspect it's just a matter of time before people can also feel like a sense of connection and relatedness to the story you're telling, the way you presented it with your brand, and really buy into that. So it's exciting. I'm looking forward to that the next
It is,
coming up.
Yeah, I think Scotch whiskey does that really, really well. They do a real unique sense of place, and like if you're down by the sea drinking a Scotch whiskey, and you can taste that saline note that's in the whiskey and all that stuff. When you go away from that place and you go somewhere else in the world that is so different to that, but you have that product again, it takes you back to that time or place when either you were there or you want to be there. So yeah, one of our slogans is we're living on the edge of the world, so we're trying to give a sense of what it might be like to people who are drinking our product from down where we are. So yeah. It's pretty wild and rugged, and you've got to be determined.
Exactly right, and there will be lots of consumers who can relate to that or have a sense of belonging around that. They actually sort of get that, and they'll probably more than likely appreciate the ruggedness of the terrain. And this is where the sense of place that you touched upon is one of the real aces in the deck that you've got. It really is, and the stories that you told, and the notion of the fishing village, and the design around the buoy, and the simplicity of it. Well, the simplicity of the design didn't mean it was easy, but clearly,
on here.
Exactly right. So that's really clear as well. Some really good connections, I think, across the whole business. You mentioned earlier that having tried a few starts with one or two in the mix, obviously the speed of decision making and that kind of thing. The downside is obviously you end up having to do chief bottle washer, the whole kit and caboodle. But in terms of the concept, back in that meeting you had in 2021, did you look for investors, or was it like a hand selected number of people who could, say, be on a board or an advisory capacity, so it could bring, say, more than just money to the table? How did that come about?
Yeah, we started off in 2021. I think there might have been 8 of us or 7 of us at the time, and yeah, it was a mix of people that could provide services and people who could provide money. We all dipped into our pockets and bankrolled the thing. And 2021 through to 2024 is a long time in a startup. It's 3 whole years. And so yeah, we're a slightly different mix of people now compared to what we were then. But it's yeah, we sort of had an investment side, but we did have advisory capacity as well. We thought that it was really important to get people who were involved in the drinks industry, even when we're looking at marketing, and we were down to 2 different companies. We chose one that works in that space already, and so people had to understand. Well, first of all, they couldn't be from anywhere. They had to have been to Bluff, and they had to have been to the place where we were setting this up, and they had to understand what we were going through. So that was the first thing. The second thing, getting that advisory right. And we're just growing on that all the time. And it's really important. We've got people involved now who have launched global products, done marketing around the world. So yeah, it's just getting the right mix of team. And I think the most important thing is with all businesses is how you start and how you finish are completely different. And the people you start with may not be the people that you finish with, but it's about evolving with the times and taking those challenges, learning from those challenges, and growing into a better business as a result of it. So yeah, so very fortunate to the people that we've got around the table.
Have you ever thought of starting your own craft distillery? At the Distillers Institute, we've got an online course packed with advice from the founders of the Distillers Institute for people wanting to reduce risk, save time and cost in opening a distillery. go to thedistillersinstitute.com.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that, Chris. I think you've highlighted a really important point that, and you'll know this from your own experience. It's almost like if it was like a construction project, for example, the guys that turn the sod and put in the foundations are different to the people who are going to be putting all the other stuff in. So, but they all contribute to an overall project delivery as such in the program we're working. And I think you might raise a really good point that there are people at the start that you need at the start, right, to get things moving or planned or whatever the capacity is. And then there comes a time where you might say, not so much a different team, but a different collection of skills to take the starting point to the next stage. And then you've got this this model actually that describes the way in which your business changes over time. And you all have different personnel. There's going to be a consistency in terms of, say, founder and vision and those sorts of things. And you need that because you still need that level of stability. But the people executing the work at different times of growth in the business can differ over time. And I think that's a really good call out on your part that, and it's just the nature of growth. You know, believe it or not, at one stage I was 9 pound too. Now I'm 100 kilo. So, somewhere in between.
Exactly. You don't know when you start. Like you can set a business plan and you can put your business growth out there and say, we want to sell 5,000 bottles or 20,000 bottles or whatever in the first year. But if you're aiming for 5 and you're doing 20, then all of a sudden it changes the way that everybody's thinking about the business. And some people can keep up with that growth, and other people it's pretty scary. So it's just a matter of making sure that you've got the right people around you to support you and help you through that stage. And
Have you at this to me it's seemingly early stage, because you're teaching in year 4. is the way I'm looking at it.
We're 15 months post-launch.
So kind of in year 4. So in terms of strategic planning, and this can be difficult, right? So have you got like thoughts around where you'd like the business to be? When I say you, I mean collectively as the group that's got the business where it is today, like say 3 to 5 years, and plans for growth. What would that look like? I mean, so for example, would it still mean location and Bluff, but maybe to larger premises, or has there been any initial thought around that? Albeit, to your point, it's only been 18 months since that first launch.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and we're always looking forward. I think that's the thing with it is we're not sort of resting on our laurels. We're always aspiring to be something else, but very mindful of the growing pains that it takes to get to that next step as well. But in terms of scope, we're lucky enough where we are. We've got a massive space available for us. So the distillery takes up one and a half buildings of 5, which are all interconnecting. So we've got a lot of space there, but we do have so we've got a lot of scope there. We've massive car parking and everything like that. So in terms of that, that's probably not our issue in terms of space. Obviously, looking at still capacity and when do you make that next move on getting a second still? Is it the same size? Is it bigger? Do I go multi-shot? All those different scenarios are always running through our head. But we did have some forward planning in that around the layout of the building to allow us to put a second still in if and when that needs to happen. So but in terms of growth and where we want to take it, I think we've got a unique opportunity to grow this into a worldwide brand. So that's sort of our aspirations. We export into 2 countries now already, so just working on another 2 at the moment. So early days, but it all goes back to that bottle supply. So our growth is controlled by how much forward thinking we do with our bottle supply. So, that's why we're ordering bigger container loads now and that sort of stuff. So, yeah. And the other unique thing too is that when you design a bottle like ours, there are limitations on automation for labeling and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, label machines do not like concave surfaces in two directions, triangle labels, and recessed triangle labels. So,
or tapered bottles, or
tapered bottles,
things like that.
Yeah. If there was a box to tick of not what to do, I think we ticked about 6 of those things. So, but yeah, but for us, it's a great quality control issue when the team are bottling. It goes through 4 people's hands at least once or twice, and provides great quality control.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's still an excellent investment in quality, no question about it. Just as an anecdotal thing to share, so probably one of the most complicated bottles to label that I've had some involvement in by producing this overseas is actually Bundaberg rum. And Bundaberg rum's got 4 labels on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tapered bottle. The bottom part is recessed inward. It's got a flat front. The neck is also recessed inward, and it's got a back label as well. And the machinery that automatically labels that thing is like something out of, I don't know, something out of science fiction. So that was way back in the good old days. So I suspect there's some broader views of it. It's just the fact that, yeah, that's not easy. And look, I guess what I'm sharing is that there is a solution. But having said that, it might be an easy solution. There will be a simple one along there to do it.
Yeah, we've done a few scenarios on that as well. And, if you look at it and you've got 4 people there in the bottling process and they can do, say 1,000 bottles a day, and you're paying them 4 people's wages, what does that equate to versus spending $500,000 or $600,000 on an automated bottling machine that may or may not work, So it's there may be a point in time where we have to move to that, but that's a fairly long way down the track, I'd say. So,
yeah.
But to go back to one of your other comments around is, do we move production elsewhere or something like that? And we've had a lot of talk around this, and we're pretty staunch about the fact that it can only ever be made in one place. And that's Bluff. So, yeah. So does it? If I was going down to talk you through the tasting and stuff like that, there is something in the bottle that's not added. That is, there's a slight saline taste. That's in there, and it's not from anything we've added. It's from the environment that we produce it in. Yep. So, and if you look at our still, there's stills around the world that haven't aged as fast as our stills because of the amount of salt air that we have. Like when you get in your vehicle to go home at the end of the day, and you've got to put your windscreen wipers on to clear the salt off the front of the windscreen.
Wow,
it's pretty full on.
Put things in the context. There's a very well known gin from Spain which actually predates Gordon's gin, right? That's how old this thing is around. Yeah, Jorigen Mahon, and it comes in this wonderful bottle. It's a green bottle. It's got a little handle on it as well. And he was speaking about the influence of the environment. Because of where they put their juniper, it does take in the environment, the environmental factors, which includes it's exposure to the coast. And so it's nothing that these guys actually add, but it does contribute to the flavour that's actually in there, which sets it apart. And I think staying staunch with where you want to be in Bluff, because there are things about Bluff and the environment which are obviously influencing the juice, right? That you probably could not replicate anywhere else. And to try and do that would probably be, well, it's probably not worth pursuing, I think. So I'm absolutely wrapped that it's from Bluff. It's Bluff. It's Bluff on a bottle. It's staying here. So that's
Yeah,
absolutely
it's
true.
one of one. You can't. Yeah.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Challenges. There's been a few. I think we've sort of gone through, and I really thank you for being so generous at sort of explaining that, the way that sort of is. Was there any particular standout you think in a really amazing journey that you took from 2021 to 24? Was there any particular challenge that stood out? I guess you've spoken about the bottles. Was that probably the single biggest thing, or were there other things that you needed to run to ground to set yourselves up for
No,
success?
there was lots of challenges along the way, really. Yeah, lots of challenge. Nothing's easy. Yeah. So bottles was tough. In an industry that's not really that highly regulated in New Zealand. I think one of the standout things you remember that at the DSA conference, and there was the Adams Distillery discussion around what happened
It's
there. And I was at that conference, and we hadn't even we had still on order, but we hadn't even started construction at that point. So, but that really sort of, from a director liability point of view, that raised a lot of issues that I really wanted our team to be aware of, and so we were determined to work through this at the highest level of compliance that we could. And that was a real challenge too, because while some of it's black and white, a lot of it's open to interpretation. Yeah, was just, we get told one thing, then you got to do it, and it's not right, but you've told us to do that, but I don't agree with that now, they say. And so you did run around in circles for a while. And we worked with some great people in the industry, some really supportive people out there in New Zealand that will help people through the process. But I think, that was probably the biggest hurdle, and it took us a very long time to get final sign off on everything. But we're there, and we're constantly improving. So it's good. Yeah. Then I suppose the third thing is just differences of people's opinion, and that's within your team, So, and then what to do if that happens, and and normally it's a change of shareholding or something like that, or So, but nothing's not achievable. You can work through most things. So yeah.
Right. But it's interesting you speak about the number of people and the communication channels. There's an interesting guide I'd share with people, right? And that's, if there's three people involved in something, there's only three channels of communication involved in it. So I speak to you, you speak to him, he speaks to me, and vice versa. So there's only three. But if there's five, you end up with 10 channels of communication. So in other words, the addition of two people has more than tripled the number of lines of communication. And so what you've described to me is, when you put it into that context, three's got three, but five's got 10, then you can see if it's 8, then there's 28 channels of communication. If it's 10, there's 45. So it doesn't take long for all these channels of communication to start sort of getting not so much unwieldy, but interesting in terms of the contributions and the diversity of views that come through there. So hats off to you. It's no mean feat to manage to corral a collective consensus view around a lot of the challenges that you've had. So that's to be commended, no question about it. Chris, I've thoroughly enjoyed today, and really enjoyed that. But before we finish up, one of the things that touched upon, some of the innovations that you spoke about, particularly around 3D printing, which I thought was really, really insightful, particularly given the traditional kind of create a mold and see how it flies. Are there any other innovations that you've seen around the traps that, or even in venues that you may have seen that really stood out as far as as far as the distilling business is concerned.
Yeah, I think we actually have another innovation that we use in Bluff because we do have this large-scale aquaculture on land happening there. And because we are so close to the sea, the Abalone and Pawa farm, who's a seaweed farm and a whitebait farm, they all use a lot of seawater. So that seawater gets sucked out of Fobo Strait and goes into a 13 million litre tank. And then gravity feeds through their facilities because they're flow through rather than recirculating the water, and then it goes back out the Fobo Strait.
Wow.
So when we were there, we thought, imagine if we could use that water, which is not very warm, by the way. What if we could use that water there to cool our condenser, and therefore cut our energy usage and you know, add to our sustainability package. So yeah, we managed to do that. The water wasn't flowing in the pipe that I thought it was when I first went down there and worked out the plan of how it was going to happen and how I was going to build this counterflow condenser thing out of I don't know what, because it wasn't going to be copper or stainless steel because it wouldn't have lasted a year. But anyway, that all went out the window when I found out the water wasn't there. But in the end, we found out it was flowing under our car park.
Really?
And right outside the door of the distillery. And not only that, it ran around the corner of the distillery. And there was an old concrete tank from back in the day when it was a meatworks. And so that formed the basis of our heat transfer. And yeah, it's amazing. It works so well. It's hard to use any energy. It maintains a constant temperature all the time. And yeah, we're very fortunate to have that as well.
It is brilliant. You know, sometimes you make your own luck.
Yeah, I had this idea of how it was all going to work, and then when I got there, it was nothing like that at all. But it's actually worked out better. So, yeah, I think there's only one other place in the world that we know of that uses seawater to cool their condenser, and so yeah, it's a challenge. But the fact that we're not using the energy to pump this water out of the sea is even better. We're just utilizing it one last time before it goes back to where it came from.
Oh, that's brilliant. What a great story. And again, sort of started off with, I've got an idea. And to your earlier point you made during the cast, you can have great ideas, but they don't necessarily tend up being the thing that you envisage at the end, but still delivers the result you're after. And that's fantastic. I'm sort of fascinated by the array of industries that you've spoken about, you know, particularly around food and like, and you spoke about the apiary side of your business as well. Given the commitments now with the gin distillery, how your bees going, brother? The
guys they just finished extracting all the honey this week, so I've got a good bean there. So they've done all that. So yeah, it's winter time. There's not too much work for looking after the bees. We've been down below 10 degrees for a long time, and so the bees can't convert any feed to honey, so they're just keeping warm in the hives at the moment. But another 6 or 8 weeks, and they'll be back into it again, and the season will start up again. So.
Yeah, goodness God. So last but not least, let's say you're sitting down with your favorite drinking setting. What are you going to be drinking, and where are you going to be having it? What would be what would that look like?
Oh, it's pretty special, to be honest, to be sitting just looking down over our condensing system. We've got some bench seats there, and you can sit there and you can look right out at over Fobo Strait with a G&T. And you can't, let's be honest, you can't do it every day because it's a bit rugged. But there's a few days where it's really special out there. There's no, it's super flat, and it's amazing. So yeah, Bluff's where it's at, mate.
Fantastic. Chris, thanks very much for your time and your generosity. I really enjoyed listening to your story and some of your insights. Been absolutely invaluable. So easiest way to get hold of, obviously the whole social media thing, everyone's into that. So just about to rattle off a couple of things. So if you can just repeat the URL for your website, any Instagram handles, all that kind of stuff. And if you've got a newsletter or something like that, people can sign up to. You better share some of those social media details with us.
Yeah, so you can hunt us out on Instagram, Bluff Distillery. You'll see the logo up there. Yeah, I think we're Bluff.Distillery on maybe. I'm really not 100% sure, to be honest. But if you hunt down Bluff Distillery on social media, Facebook and Instagram, at the bottom of our website, bluffdistillery.com, there is a link where you can sign up to any newsletters, take on the database, see what we're about. So that's all good. But yeah, mostly we're pushing it out on social media, so it's all good.
Fantastic. Now, I really enjoyed a lot of your insights and your candor as well. And it's been a no holds barred thing with things that went well and things that could have gone differently, and a bit of luck thrown there as well with your cooling system and some of those innovations. I spoke earlier today about the group that was involved with food initially kicked off. And I'll tell you what, I'm actually really keen to get down to Bluff. So for those people on the cast, I'll describe geographically where Bluff is. So how does one get there from, say, Auckland?
Yeah, so you can direct flight from Auckland to Invercargill. So jump on the jet, head down, takes you about 2 hours. And then, we're about, from the airport, it's about 20, 25 minutes to Bluff. Yeah, if you're coming from somewhere else and you're flying into Queenstown and you're doing a bit of skiing or something like that, want to come down to our tasting room and have a look around, do a tour, you can do that, but it'll take you about 3 hours drive. Yeah.
Okay. So interestingly enough, so from Australia, for example, there are direct flights into Queenstown. A lot of people like to jump in the snow, and for most people, a 3 hour drive is that's somewhere you go to for lunch. Most people Australia. Yeah, pretty much. It's really good. And of course, I think this is an absolutely fantastic story. Is that the best gin in Australia in 2024 was Bluff Gin. So there you go. Get on top of that, folks. The best gin in Australia actually came from from Bluff Distillery, which I think is a coup and a half. So congratulations on that accolade, Chris. That is absolutely outstanding. Now, I sincerely hope with all my heart that you have taken full advantage of that fact and told everybody in Australia, wherever you've gone, right? Best gin in Australia.
Yeah, and truly, yeah. And then, funnily enough, as of a couple of weeks ago, we can say that we were Product of the Year in the UK in 2025. That's another taking gin to the home of gin, isn't it?
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's like the Pommies in their own game. So that is absolutely outstanding. Congratulations, Chris. It's another fantastic accolade. Yeah, but I couldn't help it. I have to throw that in there too, because we have a lot of.
We do it well. Every opportunity.
Exactly right. Again, Chris, look, thanks very much for your time. If there was one piece of advice that you'd like to share, which is obviously there'd be lots that you'd have in there, in terms of starting a distilling business as such, what would that be? And it can have all sorts of bullet points in it as well, but what would that be?
I think there's two things there that I'd say. And one is do your homework and don't get too excited, and do your homework with people that aren't friends and family. It's too easy to get sucked in by a mate who might think that your product's really good, but the main driver for them is probably that it's free. Do your homework and do your research outside of your normal core base. Yeah, interesting enough, my mates never got to try it until they came to the Lord. Yeah, that way you're getting true measured advice from people that are judging you on your product and not because they care. And sometimes that's brutal, and that's my second bit of advice. It doesn't always go to plan, but you will be a better person as a result of how you deal with those issues as you go through. Yeah. Have fun and do that. Yeah, make some great spirits.
Terrific, Chris. Again, thanks very much. Really appreciate your time today. And I know we'll sign off and look forward to catching up with you in the wonderful place of Bluff, now that I know how to get there. So I look forward to
They're
that.
right. Doors always open.
Okay.
Anytime.
Okay, cheers. Thanks, Chris.
We're getting some great iTunes reviews for those listening. Please pop over to your podcast app and leave us a review.